Hi everyone, it's JG here with Earth-5D, back for another teaching where you are the light, the path, and the way forward, friends. How's it going today? I hope you're having an amazing day or night wherever you are in the world. I'm super excited to talk about this topic, which is about sexuality, power, and the dark feminine. So let's get right into it, friends. So when we're talking about this sexuality and power, please know that this is something that I have been working on my entire life, okay? And sometimes I come out here like with a very positive, super glowy, right, perspective. But that glowy perspective is not coming from nowhere. I have worked for probably 35 plus years on my sexuality, okay? And also what that means in terms of power and dark and light feminine energy. I'm no stranger to the dark side of the divine feminine, okay? And for myself and for many of my clients that I work with, the dark feminine energy is just something that we have been born into. And so for many of us, including myself, we've seen sort of like the evils of what it means to be in dark feminine energy and the dark side of the feminine without really consciously choosing it. So many of us were born into situations where that was our pathway, okay? That was just the path that was going to be. If we chose this before we came to this life or not is really here nor there for part of this discussion, because for whatever reason, it has been our human experience in this lifetime. So when I say that I've seen the dark side of life, I talk about drugs, drug addiction, people who got their kids taken away by the DCFS, people who are, are more of the unsavory, right? People who are in living their life from a place of extreme darkness and bondage. And I can tell you that as glamorous as it sounds in the underworld and getting in touch with the dark aspects of the feminine, there's evils there that are hidden. Okay, and so this isn't like a scary video. This is just helping you see the framework between how power works, how the dark energy works, and how you can find freedom within that. When we're talking about sexuality, also, I'm not talking about just drug addiction, right? I'm talking about hanging out in situations or being exposed to people who are less than light. And it doesn't mean that there isn't evil and the light in the daytime, right? Let's think of it as day or night. Evil happens during the day and at night. It's just that we don't need to over glamorize the dark aspects of self. We also don't need to punish it. We just need to be aware of it and sort of learn what it means to ascend. When I started out having sexual experiences, a lot of the times it was a very huge power differential. There was a huge difference in power, meaning when we put guardrails around this conversation, we have to talk about power, right? When we're talking about someone who's a minor, like when I was like 14, 15, I had sexual partners that would have been arrested, right? Had a responsible adult known, sort of what I was up to. But it was the reason why some of those laws are in place, guys, is so that there isn't a huge power differentiator. But when we're talking about sex, we're talking about we have to put up the guardrail of the power differentiator. For better or for worse, we're not here to judge the past, right? We are where we are, but women typically, right, were in order to have safety, in order to have power, in order to have material possessions, they typically needed a man to provide that for them. So that looked like a lot of power separation. Like a woman's survival depended on a man's physical ability to provide for her and often the children. So what happened there was like this huge differential in power. So when you're thinking about your own power and you're thinking about your own sexuality, where are you on the scale? Are you empowered? Where are you? Like, are you giving your power away because you see yourself, you're stuck sort of in the dark feminine aspect of self that's stuck like in the Hades? This is just a metaphor. Or are you transcending out of that? Because it is not necessary to go to dark, sort of like evil energy, which is an imbalance of power, to find sexual pleasure and to find any kind of power in the material world. There's no need to manipulate sort of like the system to have power, okay? You don't need to come from the dark feminine side of yourself to have power in this world. In fact, I would say from my own experience and for many of the women I work with, that it's when you acknowledge that you have darker feminine energy, it's something that you want to observe and sort of come out of, right? Who wants to be in bondage? It feels like a prison. It feels like hell, you know, and I've been there and it's not fun, right? I would not recommend it. I would not. So when I come off with some messages that seem a little like Pollyanna, maybe to some people, it's not because I haven't experienced the alternative. And I can tell you that the alternative isn't sexy. It's not glamorous, and it's very, very restrictive. And there's a reason why they call it the underworld, right? So we're not looking, it's important to look at the darker aspects of self and understand that they're there, right? We don't want to shoo that part of ourselves away or damn that part of ourselves to hell, right? We want to be able to have a conversation with the darker aspects of self and understand her or understand him so that we can transcend that energy. When you give your power away because of a power in differential, it doesn't have to be age. I gave you the example of age. I've also given my power away to someone who was younger than me, right? And so I've had so many examples of this. Another example is giving your power away to a sexual partner who is like the extreme sexual partner that's fulfilling you, right? They tick all the boxes, like they're the right height, they're the right weight, they're the right smell, they like really get you going, right? And in all the physical ways, but yet and sexually too, like they tick all the boxes. You can explore any aspect of your sexuality with them and it's good. Unfortunately though, that isn't enough, right? It isn't enough just to be physically drawn to someone. It isn't enough to get all those boxes ticked sexually. When in real life, when you're outside of the bedroom or you're outside of that connection, how are you interacting with the rest of the world? Because it's not just you and your person, right? It's you and your experience on this planet. So it's really important to be honest with yourself about what the power is in your life. Like how is the power flowing in your life? Are you coming from a restricted place? I'm not saying that all darkness is evil, right, guys? There's darkness and then there's light, and then there's like evil tones that can enter in both situations, right? So it's not about the darkness and the light. It's about what are you exploring in the darkness? Do you understand what's there, right? The biggest signal to look for here is the power differential. Differential. Are you feeling powerless? When I was talking about that person that I was with that ticked all the boxes and everything sexually I could explore and there was no judgment and it was just amazing. That person was also living off me. I was getting in debt because I was paying that person's bills. They weren't responsible emotionally. They had a very destructive energy outside of the aspects that were good. And so it's really important to understand power. Let those be your guardrails. If you are giving your power away by exploring darker parts of yourself, then that's something to observe. That's something to take note of. These are all just learnings and understandings, but when we're talking about divine feminine energy, I sometimes see this Kali energy or the Persephone venturing into underworld. There's value going there, but it's not something you need to harness. There's plenty of beings on Earth that are no longer in a body that would love to attach themselves to you and take a ride on your physical being without you knowing it. Because there's a lot of beings that are attached to the physical world. And I can tell you from experience that it's not fun. It feels very trapped. So what I invite you to today is to take a look at how your own sexual energy flows in your life with your partners, or even inside of yourself. And even though we're talking about the dark goddess and dark energy, is that a place you want to stay? I'm not saying that we don't need to embrace her. I would venture to say that people don't know that they have her. And so this is an observation. Because what we're looking for is the aspect of self that is free of that, actually, that isn't stuck in the underworld, that has plenty of divine chi and life force coming from energies that are safer, that are freer, because that heavier energy is like a weight on you. And like, okay, do people like to be weighed down? Maybe. Do people like to be tied up? Maybe. Do people like to be in bondage? I would venture to say that most people long for freedom. They long for a freeing energy that expands rather than contracts them, that gives them sort of like the wings that they need and want to fly, to enjoy life without heavy energy holding them down. So that's the message I have for you today. I hope it has assisted you, friends. If you need help, if you have questions, drop them in the comment below. I care about how you feel. So much love and light. Take care.